The new financial bailout hits oil and gas companies in the pocketbook. BP suffers some mishaps in its operations at Prudhoe Bay, and Kansas students get a jolt out of learning. All this and more in today's Energy Scout News. Hello and welcome back to Energy Scout News and Information. I'm Red Byers. The financial bailout recently approved in Washington could turn out to be bad news for oil and gas companies. American manufacturers will see a deduction for domestic manufacturing jump to 9% in 2 years. But oil and gas companies will see their rate frozen at the current 6%. Now that's a hit of about $5 billion. Legislation also raises another $4 billion in new taxes to companies to help fund tax breaks for renewable energy. And in other news, investors will get a peek into the major's third quarter finances when Chevron releases earnings on Thursday. Analysts expect another round of big profits, maybe even more records. Hardly surprising, but analysts say that's what the industry's needs right now. A lack of surprises shows investors the companies can weather even today's financial storms. A drop in natural gas prices has companies curtailing activity in many shale areas. Exxon has pulled out of the Barnett Shale. Chesapeake and Petrohawk Energy both plan to cut back on capital spending. But Southwestern Energy says the Fayetteville Shale play in Arkansas remains economically feasible. It's a matter of economics. Some areas that have poor economics are dropped. They're pulling back in other areas, but not in the Fayetteville Shale, according to Senior Vice President John Thaler. Still to come, science is a breeze in Kansas, but first, a look at this week's rig counts and drilling permits. The Energy Scout Network reports that 2,453 rigs are turning to the right in the United States. Now that's an increase of 19 rigs from 2,312 on land and 141 working offshore. 762 rigs are down and available to go to work. And worldwide rig counts are up 101 to a total of 4,907. Now, the total number of drilling permits filed this week rose to 2,060. A total of 67,595 have been filed so far this year. BP operations at Prudhoe Bay, Alaska have suffered some mishaps. A high-pressure natural gas pipeline ruptured last week and threw a segment of the pipe out into the tundra. Natural gas also leaked from a valve on a different well production pad. Now, no injuries were reported in either incident, but BP did shut down oil wells at 2 pads. That cut production by up to 7,000 barrels a day. OPEC's monthly oil supply fell to 32.4 million barrels per day in September, and that's a drop of about 300,000 barrels per day. It's the first monthly decline since April, and it's mostly due to violence in Nigeria and Saudi Arabia trimming production. ExxonMobil and Pratt Whitney Rocketdyne are working to develop new technology to convert coal, coke, or biomass to a synthesis gas. Now that could make use of carbon capture and storage from power plants. Synthesis gas could be converted into fuel and a variety of other products. The partnership will take advantage of Rocketdyne's rocket engine expertise in advancing the technology. And now for a quick review of today's People on the Move. South Texas Oil Company has named Ted Wicks as Executive Vice President of Corporate Development. Pantheon Resources has appointed Justin Hondras as Director of Finance and Corporate Development. And Afrin has appointed Jack M. McFarland as Director of Operations for Afrin Côte d'Ivoire. California's State Lands Commission now has authority to negotiate a contract for Occidental Petroleum to explore and develop the western end of Wilmington Field. Now, the state has traditionally shouldered most of the cost for exploration in Tidelands deposits. Oxy offered to take on that role in return for a larger share of the revenues. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger recently signed legislation making that possible. Well Dynamics has a new interval control valve. The HSICV is a debris tolerant and designed for severe operating conditions, such as high pressure, deep water environments. Now, the new valve allows customers to use smart well systems in more extreme environments. And the Southeast Kansas Education Service Center has installed an electrifying new educational tool. It's a 1.8 kilowatt wind turbine. Now that's only enough power to power a hairdryer and a couple of light bulbs, but it's not about the electricity. The generator will be connected to computers in a lab for students to see how it all works. For more information on these stories and more, check on our news section on our site. And if you have any news to share from around the energy industry, you can email us at news@energyscout.com. And as always, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow.